guys, it's Amber Rochelle from amberrochelle.com, and today I want to talk to you about the link between being a highly sensitive person and being a perfectionist, and also 3 steps that you can take should you want to start on the road to recovery from perfectionism. So let's start with the link between being an HSP and being a perfectionist. Why is it that so many HSPs tend to grow up being perfectionistic? Well, there's 2 main reasons. The first one is that when we grow up as an HSP, we very often hear, right, and I mentioned this in my last video, why are you so sensitive? Why are you so dramatic? Why are you so emotional, right? Because we live in a society that unfortunately does devalue sensitivity. And so we get this message as children that we're unacceptable as we are, that there's something wrong with us. And especially if you live in a household where nobody's explaining to you that you actually have this unique gift that may make you different, yes, but bad, no, or wrong, no. But if you don't have the blessing of having a family that understands your sensitivity and telling you that, you as a child will really internalize these messages and start to feel like you're flawed, like there's something wrong with you, like you're bad, like you're not good enough. And so what tends to happen is that as children, we come up with this story that there's something wrong with us, and then we're spending our whole lives trying to make up for it. And so we feel like we have to constantly work harder to be loved, work harder to be accepted, work harder to just be okay, right? And so we're always pushing ourselves harder and harder and harder. The second reason that we tend to end up as perfectionists is because we are natural people pleasers. So as an HSP, you have the ability to walk into a room and read the energy in that room. You can be sitting next to somebody and know what they're feeling and no words are being spoken. And that's a beautiful part of our gift. But also what can happen is that because we can read people's energy and because we can read people's emotions, if you know that somebody's sad or if you know that somebody's angry, your natural inclination is to want to fix it. We're very compassionate and empathetic people, and we want to make things better. And especially because we can feel the depth of people's pain. And with anger, a lot of times, you can sense that somebody's angry, but you don't necessarily know who at, but we think that it's us. We tend to take that in and think that it's us. So you're trying again to make up for this person's sadness, make up for their anger, to balance things out, right? And so we're constantly, because of these 2 reasons, constantly trying to adapt, to change, to morph, to be the thing that's going to make things better, to do the right thing. And the problem with this and the problem with perfectionism is that it's a really vicious cycle, and it's a shame cycle, because what happens is that you are chasing this unattainable goal. I mean, let's face it, perfect is not a real thing. There's no such thing as perfect. Even if you were able to reach this level, this high standard that you set for yourself, and you feel like, okay, I somehow reached this thing that I was trying to meet, somebody else, it's a subjective thing. Somebody else might not think that that's good enough. So there really is no such thing as perfect. And as we continue to chase this unattainable goal, we feel like we're never measuring up, like we're never quite good enough. So, it's this cycle of I tried so hard, so hard. You try so hard because you mean so well. So you're trying, but you never feel like you are reaching this level. So it's like, oh, I failed again. I'm not good enough. And it's constant evidence to yourself that you're not good enough, that you're never going to reach this goal. And it continues to reinforce this idea that you're flawed. And the more that you feel flawed, the more that you want to make up for it by being perfect. So it's just this constant snowball, and it's very damaging. It's really a poisonous cycle. And that's why I really want to encourage those of you out there who are still feeling stuck in this cycle to start to challenge it. So, sorry, I'm talking so fast. So how do you do that? Okay, so here's where we get to the cool part. Here's where we get to the action steps. So I'm going to give you 3 steps to start tackling your perfectionism. Now, I want to start with a little disclaimer. I do consider myself to be a recovering perfectionist, but that word recovering sort of means that it's a practice. It's a practice, and you have to keep it up. I work my recovery. of my perfectionism, and I work it every day. Do I have moments where perfectionism still pops up? Of course I do. Part of that's human nature, and part of it is the deep history that I had for a very big portion of my life of being a hardcore perfectionist. So it still comes up, but I have made the commitment to continue to challenge it, to promise myself that I am going to let myself live a life where I am free of the tyranny of perfectionism. And I really, really am going to challenge you guys to try the same thing. So step number 1 is to write it out. So I want you to set aside some time and get your journal or a notebook or whatever, and I want you to do a little journal exercise. And start with question number 1 is, how are all the ways that perfectionism has served you? So, you know, it's quite possible that in some ways it has served you. Has it made you feel safe because you don't have to try as many things, because you don't feel like trying because you know you can never live up to your perfectionistic ideals? Has it come up with the ways that it has helped you in your life? And I'm sure that this is going to be challenging for you, and it's supposed to be challenging. Now next, I want you, question number 2, to write down all of the ways that perfectionism has held you back in your life. What has it stopped you from trying? What goals has it stopped you from going for because you just felt like I'm never going to be able to do as good as this other person? Where has it stopped you from going? I want you to write down all of the ways that it has not served you. Now, question number 3, I want you to write down how being a perfectionist makes you feel. And really delve deep on this one. Like, really think about this one. How does it make you feel? Because I'm willing to bet it makes you feel like shit, right? Because that voice in your head, that snitty little voice, is constantly saying, oh, you screwed up again, you're never going to be good enough, try harder, but you're never going to be good enough. That's a really awful way to go through life. And so once you really pinpoint how your perfectionism really truly makes you feel, I want you to ask yourself, how would you feel if you had a friend who was doing that to themselves, who was saying those things to themselves? Your best friend, let's say. I am going to guess that you would be appalled, right? Like, they don't deserve to be spoken to that way. They don't need to be perfect because they're wonderful just as they are, right? Now I want you to ask yourself, why does the same not apply for you? Why is this friend of yours better than you? Why don't you deserve the same treatment? These are really, really good, deep questions. Not easy, but good, because what it does is it pulls back that mask, that veil of saying, you know, I'm going for this thing, for this perfect thing, and it takes perfectionism apart and breaks it down, and you get to start to really look at, wait a minute, what am I really doing here? And is it really worth it? And how is this really serving me or not serving me? So step number 2 is awareness. Now, awareness is absolutely everything. It is the foundation of all change, starts with awareness. So what I want you to start doing is I want you to start noticing in your day ways that you are being perfectionistic. What is the voice in your head saying to you? What are you holding yourself back from? What, really, how is it showing up? How is it showing up in your day-to-day life? And then how is that affecting you, good or bad? So I want you to get really, really clear and aware, and maybe set, say, I'm going to experiment with this. I'm going to do this for a week. And if it's too hard for you to remember to do it throughout the day, which is fine because that can be very difficult, especially in the beginning, first of all, don't beat yourself up over that. Now, we don't want to be perfectionistic about trying not to be perfectionistic, right? So don't beat yourself up. But if it's too hard for you to remember during the day, set an alarm for like 3 or 4 times during the day on your phone, and just make that your check-in time, your time to take your emotional pulse and check in with yourself and say, in the last couple of hours, where did perfectionism rear its ugly head? Where did it show up? And just note it. You can write it down if you want to, if you need to. Now, step number 3 is to choose to change your mind. This is much easier said than done, but it is doable, and I want to stress that so much. Now, that voice that we've been talking about, that voice that reinforces the perfectionism, that tells you that you're not good enough, that tells you that, you're never going to be as good as so-and-so, that voice, as much as it feels so powerful and so awful and can feel like a drill sergeant in your mind, you have control over that voice. And more importantly, you have control over whether or not you choose to listen to it. because it can take a long time to get that negative voice to calm down. It will if you keep working at this, I promise you, but it can take a while. But where the real true work is and the real true power is choosing whether or not to listen to it. It's not easy, but it is a choice. It is a choice. So my final challenge for you is to start talking back. Now that you have the awareness piece down and you're noticing when your perfectionism comes up and you have exposed all of the ways that it really is holding you back from being happy and actually holding you back from reaching your goals, now that's the fuel, that's the fire, the motivation to when you notice and you hear that voice come up to say, you know what? I'm not going to listen to you. Like, I'm not going to listen to this. It might feel really compelling and it might feel really real. So fake it till you make it. Say, no, I'm choosing differently. I am choosing differently. I am choosing to not listen to this and to let myself experiment with being imperfect. And then I want you to start noting all of the ways that your life gets better. How do you feel now that you're letting yourself have a little bit of wiggle room? And you can do this a little bit at a time to make it feel safer. But I am willing to bet that as you do this more and more, you're going to start to see how much better you feel, how much more you're actually getting done, how much more authentic you feel, and ultimately, how much freer you feel. So I would really like to challenge you all to try these 3 steps for the next 30 days. So if your ego starts freaking out and saying, I can't let go of my perfectionism, say, you know what? It's an experiment. I'm doing this for 30 days, and if I don't feel any better, I'm going to go right back to being just as perfectionistic as I was before. So shoosh, ego, and let me try this experiment. So try it out and then come to my Facebook page and tell me how it's working out for you. Tell me how I can support you in this journey on the recovery of perfectionism. And if you like what you heard today, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Visit me on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. And also I have a wonderful Facebook group called the Super Sensitives where we can continue this conversation should you choose to join us there. I will post all of the links below. Till next time, I love you guys. Thank you for listening.